Longtime friends Bacon, Soap, Tom, and Eddie decide to put together £100,000 to play three-card brag against Hatchet Harry Lonsdale, a porno king of notorious disposition, in a high-stakes card game, hoping to win easy money. Aided by Barry the Baptist, Harry's personal bodyguard and counselor, the game is fixed so that Eddie, the card shark representing the group, loses to Harry and is forced to pay a £500,000 debt due in 1 week. If he fails, he risks losing his fingers and his father's bar. To Eddie's fortune and the dismay of his friends, all four of them are responsible for honoring the debt, as they all contributed the stake money. Harry's loyal and violent debt collector, Big Chris, who often brings his son and apprentice, Little Chris, to his work, is assigned to collect the payment on the due date. After several days, with no way to come up with the money, Eddie returns home and overhears his neighbors. A gang of thieves, known for robbing drug dealers, planning a heist on some marijuana growers who are supposedly loaded with cash and drugs. Eddie relays this information to the group, intending for all of them to rob the neighbors as they return from their heist, thus solving the debt. Tom uses his connection with an underground dealer, Nick the Greek, to provide them with guns for the job and find someone to help them move the drugs. Nick manages to acquire a pair of antique shotguns and arranges a deal with Rory Breaker, a gangster and sociopath, to purchase the stolen weed. Prior to the card game, a pair of low-life criminals, Gary and Dean, were hired by Harry to rob a bankrupt millionaire who wanted a specific pair of antique shotguns from the stolen pile for his personal collection. However, the two guns that Harry wanted were the ones Gary and Dean prematurely sold to Nick after the robbery. An enraged Harry then threatens the two into getting them back. The neighbor's heist goes underway. Dog, the leader of the gang, learned about the weed chemists from one of his crew members and uses his connections to catch them off guard. Despite losing a gang member to friendly fire from a Bren gun and an incriminating encounter with a traffic warden, the job is otherwise a success. Unfortunately, as they return to their hideout, the four friends ambush the neighbors and steal the loot. The neighbors later return that night to stash the goods next door and then celebrate with a wild night of drinking. The various characters finally collide when Rory discovers that the weed he was going to purchase was, in fact, his own. The chemists who were robbed were under his employ. Rory interrogates Nick into revealing where the four friends live and uses one of the chemists to identify the robbers. That same morning, Dog, furious at having been cheated, throws one of his men against a wall, accidentally revealing sound recording equipment hidden in their hideout. Realizing their neighbors were the ones who robbed them, Dog prepares to ambush the friends in their flat while he counts the money and takes the antique shotguns. Meanwhile, Gary and Dean call Nick, who, in frustration, directs them to the same address in their search for the shotguns. At the same time, Big Chris and his son depart to collect the debt, while the four friends drive home from the bar. Rory and his gang storm the flat, leading to a shootout with the neighbors. Everyone, except Dog and one surviving chemist, is killed. Chemist escapes with the marijuana, while Dog is mugged by Big Chris, who takes the shotguns and cash from him. Gary and Dean stealthily follow Big Chris, and the four friends finally return to the flat, shocked by the carnage and the missing loot. Big Chris then delivers the guns and cash to Harry, but as he returns to his car, he finds Dog threatening his son, demanding he retrieve the loot from Harry. Desperate to get the guns back, Gary and Dean attack Harry and Barry at their office, realizing who they were at the last moment, before killing each other in another violent shootout. The four friends soon arrive to find yet another scene of carnage and take the opportunity to steal the debt money once again, mystified by their strange fortune. Big Chris then crashes into their car to disable Dog, and, after brutally beating him with his car door, takes the debt money back from the unconscious friends. However, upon returning to his employer, he finds Harry dead and sees Tom attempting to escape with the antique shotguns, which he had briefly paused to examine. The remaining friends are arrested, but later declared innocent after the traffic warden identifies the neighbors' bodies as the prime suspects. The four reunite at Eddie's father's bar and decide to have Tom get rid of the only evidence linking them to all the bloodshed: the shotguns. After Tom leaves, Big Chris arrives to bid them farewell and hands them a catalog on antique guns before departing, having kept the debt money for himself and his son. A quick perusal of the book reveals that the shotguns they had bought for the job are worth a fortune, and they desperately try to call Tom. The film ends on a cliffhanger as Tom's cell phone, stuffed in his mouth, starts ringing while he stands over the edge of a bridge, preparing to drop the shotguns into the River Thames.